Hello and welcome to Offstage. My name is Shamanabia and today we will be talking to Mark Pyjama. Hello Mark, welcome to Offstage.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks, and how are you?
I'm fine. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited for this chat.
So Mark, how did you come up with the name Mark Pyjama? So what inspired the name?
What came first actually was Pyjama Planet, and that was the first iteration of me being a sort of a solo musician outside of playing in your regular sort of rock and metal bands in a local town. So that's what I was doing. I was working as a filmmaker, and I played in about two different bands through my 20s. Had such an amazing time, and that's where I made some of my my best friendships, which I still hold today. But after a certain point, I wanted to venture off on my own, and I started writing music that incorporated everything that had happened musically throughout my life. So there was the rock and heavy metal, which I'd ingrained into myself in my 20s, much later than other people apparently. And then I took what my childhood was, which was actually studying music at school and playing a variety of instruments, so which would be sort of orchestral and synthesized sounds. And when I put those two together and started writing music, I started seeing these vivid colors, and I started imagining stories, and in popped to my head a beautiful little planet which was glowing luminous. And on this planet I saw human-like sort of alien creatures running around in pajamas. And so Pyjama Planet was born, and that steamrolled. And then when there was a debut album and artwork, and I developed stories with some of my friends around some of the tracks, and it just went from there. And now, almost 5 years later, a lot of my friends just associate me with Pyjama Planet. So Mark Pyjama seemed like a great idea.
That is such a cool story from how you started all of this. So when you were a lot younger, did you know that this is what you want to do and that you want to compose music and mix and master musical stuff?
No, I don't think it was exactly what I wanted to do. I would. There were times when I would dress up in like my dad's big baggy clothes and put on sunglasses and find their karaoke microphone, and then sort of get my sister to stand at the door making a disco with the light switch, and I would sort of mimic to songs and perform in my room. And I always sort of enjoyed that engagement with music and sound. So it was always there with me, but I was never sure what I wanted to do with myself for some reason. I was very influenced by other people and my family and my parents. And for some reason, I battled to find what it was that I wanted to do until much later in life. But, I really grew up in a household that was filled with music. Both my parents played instruments, so there was often tunes coming back and forth from different rooms of the house. My sister and I loved listening to music on our little, what would have been Walkmans or cassette players or ghetto blasters back in the 90s, showing my age there. But it really sort of came about in my mid to late 20s is when I realized that everything that I was doing wasn't making me nearly as happy as when I wrote music. And not only did I enjoy writing music, but I thought I might have something there to actually make a career out of it. So, long story short, I pitched myself to a couple of animation companies and landed a great job with one of them and worked with them for probably 3 years as their sort of contracted composer, writing a variety of music from orchestral to African to even 8-bit styled video game music. It's all over the place. So I'm very happy where I ended up, but it took a very weird, wonderful path to get there.
So would you say that whatever you have endured in life and everything that you have experienced, even though you said that you started later off, that had a major influence on the kind of music that you make today, and that you are really happy with the fact that it took so long?
Yeah, I don't mind that it took so long. I have had to play a bit of catch up in that I only started actually producing my own music physically on my computer and actually producing a sound professionally about maybe 4 years ago. And before that, it was just like 10 years of really just playing around every now and then, because I was writing really shitty demos for the bands I was playing in, and it would just be like a terrible guitar sound, straight into the microphone input of the computer, which almost blew the sound card, and recording it terribly to like a very bad metronome that you couldn't even hear. And that was sort of the extent of my knowledge. But it's taken me about 4 or 5 years of hard graft to get to a point where I'm now confident that the sound that I produce, whether it's my music or other people's, is not only technically okay, but it's pleasurable to listen to, because that's what it really comes down to, right? Does it sound nice? Cool. Let's listen.
So, with that also being said, so you mix and master tracks not only for yourself, but for other people as well, because you have Pyjama Planet Studios. And has there ever been an artist that they bring something to you and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to resurrect this?
Yes, I mean that does happen. Maybe from a musicianship side, when perhaps you're presented with an artist that is actually not very, technically versed at their instrument or their voice, and they're trying to do something which they can't quite pull off. That is tricky, but I find the best thing there is to just work with what they have and make the music fit to that. Don't create a super duper polished sound with vocals that are going to be crackly and out of tune, regardless of how much auto tune you do. Like everything's got to be tailored to sound like they fit together, and it sounds like a group of musicians playing in a room.
During your entire process of making music, mix and mastering, did you have someone to guide your way? And when you do something and they don't think that it's really good, they would guide you and be like, okay, this is maybe not your best, but let's try and do it in this way.
Absolutely. I've definitely had a lot of help from my peers in the composing scene, and then peers that I used to play in bands with or shared stages with, and all random people that I've worked with over the years that have become friends as well. I think it's also like if you play in a band of musicians, it's much better to bounce your ideas and your energy off other people instead of just sitting by yourself and trying to write music by yourself. So from the get-go, I was always very candid about anything I produced, whether it was the first draft of a demo for another musician or of myself. I would always, I think all my friends would testify to this, I would send them literally every version of every song I ever make and get everyone's opinion along the way. Not only does it make it a fun collaborative process and sort of bring people along for the ride, but I think that's the only way you're going to learn. And so despite actually pulling from my peers and friends, I was just really got stuck into YouTube, which a lot of people do. And I did 2 courses through the Berklee College of Music overseas. And one was an introduction to sort of audio engineering course. So it taught me a lot of basics that I knew how to use and manipulate when I was producing, but I didn't actually have the foundational education there. So once I got that basis, a lot of things made a lot more sense. And then I actually did a composing course, which was composing for film and TV, that was by far the most fun I've ever had in a sort of educational sort of way, to actually be told by your teacher, check out this scene from this awesome movie that you definitely know. I want you to write a piece of music to that. And today we're not going to write it in that style. We're actually going to subvert it, and we're going to write it instead of as an action sequence. We're going to write it as a romantic comedy. And that to me was just such fun. And was there actually, I think that was 2015. It was there when doing that course that I realized I actually had something there. And not only did I enjoy it, but I thought I was actually quite good at it. So I got straight to work writing to picture.
That is so cool. So now you not only do sound effects for movies and the composition for movies, but you also do it for video games.
Yes, I would love to do it I would love to write music for video games full time if I could. There unfortunately isn't enough. There's not enough work in all the different areas, so that's why I have to sort of have my fingers in all the different pies at the same time. So there's corporate videos that I write music for. There's musicians that I help finish music or do a mix and master to, whatever it is they need and come to me for. Or it's, trawling the internet and the independent underground websites and finding independent game developers who are busy making something that I think is also super cool, that I want to be attached to in a way. And so that's what I did actually. Years ago, I went to one, I don't know if you've heard of a website called Newgrounds, I think it's .com or .org, but it's an underground portal where musicians, artists, video game developers, animators, all of these different types of people from different sort of facets of the art world congregate in this underground, almost like digital bunker, and share their creations and chat about their creations. And I just started networking there. And I found a developer in America who was producing a top-down shooter video game, and he needed some music that sounded like the Castlevania TV series, which is sort of happy-go-lucky, energetic rock and roll with some cheesy synth. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. That's pretty much what I write anyway. So let's do that. Couple of dollars in the account for me. I get to write 8 short songs and then also turn it into a soundtrack, which I have online as well, which is on all the streaming platforms, all the Spotify's and the Bandcamps and all of those things. And then, one thing led to another, and I just made contacts with various different people. And now, maybe 3 to 4 years later, they're starting to pay off. And my biggest gig at the moment is I'm writing the original soundtrack for a video game being made in Poland. And I've made some awesome new friends in Poland who are making also a top-down shooter, but in the style of a gritty underground cyber goth sort of world where there are different factions and clans and gangs and missions, and I'm getting to write industrial jungle beat cyberpunk synthwave with heavy percussion. I'm like, what the hell? That's the best thing I've ever heard of. And I get to do that and get paid. So it's amazing.
So, what would you say is your process for this? So, obviously, you just mentioned like 5 genres in one that
Yeah.
you now need to make work, and obviously, you will. So, what would you say is your inspiration for that? And how do you what is your writing process for something like this? And how do you prepare yourself to do it?
With a project like the video game I'm busy with now, the benefit is that there's a long time for me to write the music because they brought me in right at the beginning. And the benefit of that is that I get to see a lot of their demo and alpha builds of the game. We get to test a lot of music and a lot of simple stuff that I write, and I can send off to them every couple of weeks, and they put it in to the builds and see how it works. So it's a lot of sort of give and take from both parties. But I would say the most important thing and with my process is if I'm not in a relaxed state of mind and I'm not sitting down with all my instruments and my keyboard in front of me and I'm not playing and experimenting, then nothing will happen. And far too often I'll find myself sitting down, writing notes, planning things, and then I forget that if I would just sit down and write, pretty much every single time I sit down, at least one idea comes out that is salvageable and usable and ends up in a project somewhere. So I always just have to remind myself when I'm not feeling like something's working. I literally just have to sit down and start playing notes, and magic happens in a weird way. Sometimes it's strange magic.
As a former beard grower, would you say that you have a lot of patience?
It's a good question. It's also a very difficult question because I think it depends on the subject matter. With beards, yes, I have patience. With hair, yes, I have patience because I've now grown my hair out for the first time, like ever. I had my mom's favored short back and sides till the age of like bloody 33 or something. It's insane. And I thought like, screw it, I'm gonna grow this shit out and see what I look like as like a sort of a jungle man from a forest, living on a farm, which I do now.
You have to look like you're from Nice now.
Exactly, yeah. But look, I'll still wear a good pair of jeans if I have to. So don't get me wrong. It's not all about the feldskin and the and the Leathermans on the belt.
So you're not at the Kikoi level yet of chill.
No, no.
That was a very like formal no.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I forgot where we were, but yeah, I got sidetracked.
So the question was just, would you say that you have a lot of patience? So not only with just growing a beard, but with music in general as well.
Music, I do have a lot of patience. I also, that also comes with an equal amount of frustration because you're waiting for that right moment for you to feel like you can tackle a specific part in a song that you're busy with for a project or for yourself. But you also know that it takes some time. And as I said, you always just have to sit down and play. But sometimes it doesn't work. So it's a mixture of yes, being patient because you know that something good will come if you take a little longer just to immerse yourself in the project. But there's a time when patience runs out. So I've been working on 2 albums for 3 years now, and I haven't really released apart from my soundtracks, which are online, I only have a sort of a full album debut album for Pyjama Planet online, which was released in 2016. So in terms of actual album material and not soundtracks, it's been quite a while now, and I've had these others that I've been writing, and that is not me being patient. That's me being actually busy and writing a whole lot of other music. So the sort of my guilty pleasure of writing heavy metal with orchestra and synthesizer, I can't really get to as often. But now other work things are happening in different ways, and motivation is kicking in a good way, feeling better. So I'm starting to work on and hopefully going to finish and be able to release all this material that's been sitting there for ages.
So have you made up like a set date that you want to do this by, or is it still like a in the future plan for you? Because obviously, yes, it is in the future,
Mm.
but like the nearby future for you.
The next album is going to be called Magenta, and it's like the color, except spelt like gent, like the music genre, metal genre. So that's fun, and it's gonna be it's gonna be I think a 6 to 7 track album. I haven't finalized how many of the songs I'm keeping. It is based around a 7-string guitar, whereas the first album was a 6-string. So this tuning is quite a lot lower. Has a different feel, and also whereas the first album was very fast and thrashy, this one is a lot more groovy, low down, sort of big and heavy, but very melodic and beautiful at the same time. So majestic. I like to think I write music that is majestic in a way. So I'm very excited for that.
In a metal way.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very excited for that album. I actually released the first single via a live stream, which was, don't quote me, 2 weeks ago, which would have been the 1st of August. It was a Saturday, 2020, for the Metal for Africa Winterfest 2020 show. And I played a live show and had some of my buddies on air in pre-recordings playing with me, and I released one of my new songs on air there, which was called The Prelude, which is a 6.5-minute catastrophe and extravaganza of guitar and orchestra mishmash with stories from Pyjama Planet. It's quite an experience. You should check it out. It's on YouTube.
I will definitely go check it out, and I hope that everybody that listens to it checks it out because I
Mm.
mean, I've seen quite a few videos and I've gone on your website and I saw the most interesting stuff and the work that you do. And I just want to know, like, what was the process of setting everything up for you? So, first going from the studio to realizing that, listen, I'm really good at making samples. Let me start selling this and put it on a platform.
That just came about from, again, experimentation and fun, really. I mean, you're not, especially if you're in a creative field, you're not going to progress if you're not creating and trying different stuff. So none of us really like to be too stagnant. So I remember recording sounds from a young age, just for fun, and it was always fun to play things back or to try and slow a tape down to see if something would sound different backwards, or slow it down. And this culminated in me buying a particular piece of software that also had the ability to make instruments and to sample instruments and sounds and turn them into playable instruments on like a MIDI keyboard, for example. So I decided that because I didn't have a lot of cash dara to go and buy a lot of software and plugins for myself to write music, I thought, wow, I might as well just sort of sample my own things and see what I can do and create these unique sounds that I can compose with, and not have to rely on other people for so much. So after a while, I built a whole lot of things, which took me the better part of a year. And then for the next 6 months, I started using all of these cool synth patches and bass guitars and weird percussion instruments I made out of like steel and buckets on the farm. It's good fun. Like, why not have a bit of fun? You're making music and you're creating art. Like, you gotta have some fun. If you're not having fun, then what's the fucking point? Anyway, so I was having such fun using these instruments myself that I just thought, shit, I might as well first send them around to my friends. So I send them around to my friends and other composers. Some of them were like, that's cool. Some of them were like, what is this bullshit? Don't send me this. Stop spamming me. Uh, so, don't send to those ones. Again, the response I got was great. It was heartwarming, and people actively were using these things and then sending me videos back of them just trying out the instrument. It was really cool, sort of this fun little project that I had done, and made me feel good. So that's okay. But then I was going to sell an old bass guitar of mine, so I thought I might as well sample to keep the sound of it for prosperity and for archival purposes because I've had it for so long. So I sampled it, and then I was like, screw it. I'm going to reamp this thing. I'm going to put all the distortion and amps on this guy, and I'm going to like turn it into a fully amped, distorted, mixed, ready to go digital bass guitar that you can play on a MIDI keyboard, and designed for heavy metal because it was one of my basses. So I wanted to use it in all of my own stuff and not actually have to pick up a bass guitar anymore because it's just all the way. It's all the way over there in the corner. So
So
it's
far.
so far. So because that took so long to make, and because it was such a great product, what it ended up was so cool. I just went a couple of steps further, and I already had the website. So me and my the web developer who works for me, my boy Kishan, love Kishan Kalan, super cool guy. He integrated the store into my website, and I was like, yeah, it's good. I'm going to put up all my free products. I'm going to start doing some paid products. And what I really enjoyed was I could pull together all these random things that I'd learned and sort of done over the years. I just sort of could create basic artwork and do some photo edits and make all the promo videos and write the music and be on camera if I wanted to, do voiceovers. I don't know, like all these random different funny little things that make no sense by themselves. And I pull them all together to sort of make all this content. Sort of what I do now. I do something and then I make content about it, and I end up doing everything. So it's like, to me, the afterthought content of a product to me is just as important as the product because it shows my skill set just as much in a way. But making products and making samples is super cool, but it's also super tough. It takes a long time, and after I launched them, most of them got pirated, so not making any money there. So they're all gone. But I'm going to press on. Why the hell not? So yeah, not much more to say about Pyjama Planet samples, except that they're online at pyjamaplanet.com/shop.
So, would you say that it is important for an artist? Because I mean, at the end of the day, if you are an artist, you have to run yourself as a business.
Yes, correct.
So, would you say that as an artist, it is very important to be kind of a jack of all trades?
In today's time, absolutely. Think back to, I don't want to ask when you were born and all that kind of nonsense, but if you think back in history to even 20 years ago, and I found a folder in one of my hard drives. Now I was doing some PR stuff, so looking for old pictures and photos of myself playing instruments and whatnot. And there was a significant difference between the photos that we took 5 years ago even, and the photos that I was taking on a phone in what would have been 2005. Holy shit, it's like a pixelated thumbnail. It's just like absolutely nothing there. Technology has changed to such a degree that you can't rely on the fact that you're just a tradesperson or an artist and that's what you do, and somebody's going to find you. You've either got to have a variety of skills that sort of pop you out from the general populace in what you're doing to make you stand out in some sort of way because you're an interesting combination of things, or you're a very particular artist that has collaborated with a very group of very interesting type of people or something. But I feel like if I was only able to play the guitar, for example, and I wasn't able to operate a camera or to edit film or to actually compose music or do sound effects or to do a final mix or to do basic animation, I wouldn't be. I don't know what I'd be doing. But like honestly, I have no clue because I thought I'd probably have to go and save up some cash and try and go back to a college or something, because who's going to make money as a session guitarist in like a pandemic? Before that, my friends who did do that, the ones who were lucky enough to have the good gigs, did okay, but everyone else, in disaster. And because you're aiming for one thing only, but now you're seeing, okay, I'm a guitar player. I'm being very specific here about music, obviously, because we're talking about music, but okay, I'm a guitar player, but I can now stream. Ooh. I can now give online lectures. Ooh. I can now start writing tunes at home and put them on Spotify. Ooh, it's all these different things you can start tapping into, and you're sort of sinking your teeth into. And it means that you will have to start learning a different variety of skills. And I think one thing that a lot of people are having to do now is get internet smart. People that have not had to, or they haven't been pushed to that point. I think it's alarming that a lot of artists aren't internet smart in any sort of way, but you can't hold it against them. You have no clue the kind of background that somebody has, or if they were lucky enough to be around technology growing up, or if they're actually just too old. That sounds so bad. Uh, you're too old for what? For what? For everything.
Oh, you're too old for
You're
technology.
too old for
You're
technology.
analog. Thank you.
I mean, I was chatting to my uncle 2 days ago and trying to get him to send me video files via WeTransfer, and it took 8 minutes to isolate on the page where the address bar was. And that's not because he's not an intelligent person. It's just because it's like he's a farmer. He's never had to do that. He's like got the email client that can open, and that's cool. We don't need anything else. We've got our cell phone and our WhatsApps and our SMS, and but it's you have to be a jack of all trades. To me, nowadays, you don't have to be. It's not that old bullshit about like jack of all trades, master of none. Because you can be a jack of all trades and a master of a few. You don't have to be a master of one. I feel like I'm a master of a few things that I do. You're most certainly probably a master at a few things that you do, and so the same with a lot of people that we know, friends and peers. When you think about people who are multi-skilled and multi-talented in the things that they do, it's very possible to be good at more than just one thing. And to answer your question, after about 9 minutes, yes, I think you have to be a jack of all trades.
Would you say that during the entire lockdown, which has probably been like 500 days,
Mm.
that you have came across something that you think, okay, I might be good at this, and you've actually improved that is not involved with music, that is like a personal skill that you've now mastered?
I can safely say that I have started doing some basic carpentry during lockdown and fixing some broken stairs. I live in a wooden house that we bought here, so I'm getting good at using the drill and the screws and the tape measures and the levels and all of that all of that stuff. But no, but every day out here there's something new that I'm doing. The other day, actually a couple of months ago, I rolled a giant pine tree stump into this field we have near our house, and I dug it into the ground, and now I had this massive stump to chop wood on. So I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is like a movie. I felt like Schwarzenegger in what's that? Collateral? Is it Collateral Damage? I can't remember. But he just, opens the film with chopping these giant pieces of wood, and then he gently bends down and feeds a deer some berries while his daughter like sits on his lap. It's magical.
Did you at least have like your own soundtrack to that as well? Was there like wind through your hair and you just imagine one of your songs?
Yes, I was singing. No, it what I was singing. What's the Monty Python song? He's a lumberjack and he's okay. He works all night and he's that one. I was definitely chiming that as I chopped wood.
Who would you say is Mark Allnutt when he is not Mark Pyjama?
The same sort of person, loves to be entertained, loves to be entertaining, but is very reserved at the same time. I don't. I live out on a small holding with my wife and our dogs. We don't see a lot of people, and that is how we like it. We're very quiet, reserved people. Enjoy our own time and our time together. So I'm often, if I'm not writing music, I'm actually outside on the farm and working with my hands and working that body to try and sweat off some of the gremlins and to keep me active. So I'd say the same sort of person, just turn down a couple of notches on the volume and excitement, I guess.
Singing your lumberjack songs, figuring out how the basic house tools work.
Singing my lumberjack song. Yeah, yeah. I sing to my dogs a lot. That's fun. And when I'm talking to them, I often just sing in random voices. And when I talk to my wife, actually, I normally just sing my sentence. It just seems like way more fun to get the message across.
Cool, man. Thank you so much for your time and good luck with everything that is on your your path at the moment. And
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's really been fun.